Chapter 16, Persuasive Speaking, for use with the public speaking projects, Public Speaking, the Virtual Text. Please note that this chapter will not cover all of the material found within Chapter 16, and there may be one or two items covered in this tutorial that might not necessarily be found in the chapter. Persuasion is defined as the art of changing or reinforcing one's beliefs, values, attitudes, or actions. In public speaking, basically what this means is you're trying to encourage your audience to act or think in a certain way about your chosen topic. One of the functions of persuasive speaking is to convince. When you're trying to convince, you're trying to encourage your audience to change or reinforce their values, beliefs, or attitudes. When you're trying to actuate your audience, you're trying to motivate them about a specific behavior. You're trying to get them to do something. When you deliver a speech focusing on a preposition of fact, you're trying to encourage the audience that something can either be proven as true or as false. When you deliver a speech focusing on the preposition of value, you're trying to encourage the audience to consider the relative worth of something. In other words, how important something is, how significant something is, how attractive something is, how valuable something is. And when you focus on preposition of policy, you're encouraging your audience to consider taking a course of action. This actually may be focused on, for example, a local government policy within the city limits, or maybe a state or federal governmental policy. It's important to consider what type of audience you'll be speaking to. There are three major categories that we can look at. The first is that of the receptive audience. The receptive audience more or less already agrees with your perspective. Your job when speaking to a receptive audience is to encourage the audience to feel even more passionately than they already do about your topic. When speaking to a neutral audience, this is the most common of the three. This is a type of audience who the individuals haven't quite yet made up their minds. They're not quite sure how they feel yet. Your job here is to really encourage them that your perspective is the best. When speaking to a hostile audience, this is the type of audience who disagrees with your perspective. You want to start out gently, so you want to start out on points that both you and the audience already agree with. This allows you kind of a more gentle introduction into introducing your perspective to this type of audience. There are three types of persuasive methods that we'll look at here. The first one is referred to as ethos. This is where you try to present a message to your audience where you're seen as credible and interesting to your audience. The next one is logos, where you try to use a logical argument and logical persuasion to encourage the audience to believe in your perspective. The third is that of pathos, and that's an emotional appeal where you try to get in touch with the audience's emotions to try to encourage them to feel a certain way about your particular topic. Neither of these three methods is necessarily more effective than the other. It really depends upon the topic, and it depends upon your approach. One might be more persuasive in a certain case than another one. So use your best judgment in determining which type of persuasive method or methods you would like to use to try to get your message across to your audience. It's important to speak ethically. It's important to deliver your persuasive messages in an ethical manner. So it's very important not to use coercion. It's important not to use deceptiveness or force to try to encourage your audience or to try to force your audience to act or think in a certain way. It's also important, if you're citing material or if you're quoting someone, getting information from another source, not to change the original meaning of that original source, not to change the original meaning of the message from that original source. Don't just take a portion of a quote that might potentially change the meaning of what the original person was intending to say. And also watch out for fallacies, errors in reasoning. This can weaken your argument and can reduce your persuasive ability in your presentation. An organizational pattern that's designed to be used exclusively with persuasive speeches or exclusively for persuasive messages is called MONROE'S motivated sequence. When we use this pattern, we're using a specific 5-step pattern to try to encourage our audience to act or think in a certain way. In the introduction, you'll have what's called the attention step. This is basically the same thing as your attention getter. The very first thing at the beginning of your speech, you want to catch the audience's attention. The next 3 steps fall within the body of your presentation. Step number 2 is the need step. You want to let the audience know that there's a need to improve a situation. There's a need to make something better. Step 3 is called the satisfaction step. In this step, this is basically where you'll tell the audience how you can satisfy that need, how you can work to try to meet that need. And then step 4 is called the visualization step. In this step, you'll encourage your audience to imagine how things will change once that need has been satisfied, or at least once that need has started becoming satisfied. And the last step is in the conclusion. That's step 5. It's the action step. This is a call to action. So now that you've told the audience that there's a need that can be better, or something can be improved, there's a need to make an improvement, you told them how to satisfy that need, you told them how to imagine how things will be better. So now it's time to go out and take action, to go out and do something about starting to satisfy that need. So in your conclusion, in the action step, you're trying to encourage the audience to take action. For more information on material related to this chapter, please visit the Public Speaking Project's tutorial on reasoning at www.publicspeakingproject.org/videomodules.html. The Public Speaking Project's textbook, Public Speaking, the Virtual Text, can be found at www.publicspeakingproject.org.